Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 27 of Around the League in 30 days as we head down to Tampa to talk about the Rays. As we have a couple AL East teams to still talk about here as we close out our days. The Rays being one of them, the Jays being the other, which will come up in a few days. But first, again, Tampa after a disappointing season, you would say, but also still very close to 500, which is their standard. So, how bad
No, it's
actually
not.
was it? There is a couple certain things in life, death, taxes, and Tampa finishing 500. It's actually
They've
absurd.
been in the playoffs like a majority of the last 5 years. What do you mean finishing as a 500 team is
Over
the norm?
500. Relax. Guy is he was talking to me pre-show about me being an asshole. Look at him coming out hot.
Well,
Uh
you are an asshole,
I am
but
an asshole, but it's all
This
right.
already sucks, this episode.
Let's look at that projected lineup going into the season for the Tampa Bay Rays. Starting off top, Yandy Diaz leading it off. Brendan Lau hitting second. Junior Caminero hitting third after his crazy offseason with the walk-off he hit over in the Winter League. Josh Lowe, Danny Jansen is the addition here. Also, of course, not on the list, Hassan Kim, who will be back in hopefully May for this team. Christopher Morel down there as well. The bench essentially stays the same. And then looking at that starting rotation, Shane McClanahan is back. Bradley, Ryan Pepio, Shane Baz, who was the player to be named later in the Pirates trade for Chris Archer. He's there. So, you know, that's how that goes. Drew Rasmussen back in that starting lineup potentially as well. Maybe as their sixth man, maybe as the long reliever. And the Rays, I mean, they had a great year last year pitching. The bullpen basically stays mostly the same. You still got Fairbanks there. Uceta was really good for them last year. Also, Rodriguez was really good for them. Garrett Clevenger there as well. So a bunch of guys down at the bottom, and we can really say the bullpen was not the problem last year. Pitching really wasn't the problem for the Rays. It was their offense, but that is the projected lineup and rotation for the Rays in 2025. Now getting into the storyline, was last year an outlier for the Rays. And if you want to call it a down year for them, they still finished 80 and 82. So, Will, was last year really just them being as bad as they were on offense? And is this something they can rebound from?
I think the offense was the main reason that they were not in the playoff contention because the fact that they arguably had their worst offensive season in team history and still had 80 wins kind of says a lot because you feel like when you have your worst offense, you're going to get like 60, maybe 70 wins. But I mean, this team for the longest time was able to do whatever with absolutely nothing. Like they could make the playoffs with it seemed like a men's beer league if they wanted to. So the fact that in 2023 they had their best offense in team history, and then last year they had their worst offense. I imagine they're going to be somewhere in the middle this year when it comes to offense. And so I expect them to be much more like the Rays of the last 5 to 10 years or whatever than just, again, what the type of team they were last year.
And they do bring in a few additions on the offensive side. Again, of course, Hassan Kim, who is going to be out. Does he light your world on fire for the offense? Not particularly. Danny Jansen as well, and at catcher. So they're not changing that much. There is some other factors that we will touch on as we go through the show that maybe helps out their offense. But John, again, I mean, this offense really let this team down last year, where they had like a top 10 rotation and bullpen. So how can they bounce back this year?
well, I'm gonna make it real simple. You need to get on base and you need to work on hitting the ball. And that is about as simple as I can make it. Their team batting average in the first half was 236. In the second half was 222. Their team on base percentage was 311. Their team on base percentage in the second half was 289, and their slugging percentage was 370 in the first half and 260 in the second half. You can't regress like that and then expect to make the playoffs. I mean, In September alone, their team batting average was 227, their on base percentage was 283, and their slugging percentage was 343. Honestly, the month that killed them was the month before that, which was August, where their team batting average was 218. I mean, this is a team that typically, by hook or by crook, will be in the playoffs. Last year they were not, and it is definitely because of this offense.
Yeah, I think, they still have a lot of those pieces on the pitching staff, I guess. I mean, there has been some changes. The offense has changed significantly, I would say, over the last couple of years. You're not seeing the same names they had. So it's like, was last year an outlier? Are they going to be that bad again? It's hard for me to see that happening. But I guess you never know. But I would imagine this offense improves a little bit, and it doesn't really have to even improve that wildly for them to be a playoff team, especially with how in limbo, I guess you would say, the AL East is kind of now. I think, everybody thought the Yankees, they're injured. There's still a lot of people that think the Orioles took a step back. Still not sure about the Red Sox. So a team that's been as consistent as they've been for the past couple years, it's certainly not out of the question that they can compete in this division. Um, the one thing I guess we can touch on that might actually help them offensively, in a weird way, is of course they're not going to be able to use Tropicana Field this year as it's under construction for, you know, the damages it took from the hurricane. So they're going to be playing at Steinbrenner Field. Kind of weird as well. You're playing in the minor league stadium of one of your division rivals, but they're
It
going to
was
be
nice of them to loan that out.
yeah, yeah, very nice of them. Um, but you're going to be playing baseball outside in the summer in Florida. So you would imagine, Will, that they're going to be able to do a little bit better offensively.
I expect them to do better offensively, but I also expect their pitching to give up more home runs. Last year, the pitching was tied for seventh in baseball in home runs allowed, which is not a great thing. And so now that you're going to be playing a bunch of your games outside, that's going to be a big factor is the home run ball this year. I don't care how much Rob Manfred wants to put the baseballs in a humidifier. There's nothing you can do to stop that Florida air from hitting more home runs. They're also going to have a ton of rain delays, so that could be interesting in how schedules get reworked.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
I think like I mean obviously everybody thinks about, oh man, Tropicana Field going down, like obviously that's brutal, but then it's like, all right, well at least they have a bunch of different fields to play on, like you have all these spring training venues, but it's also going to be outside in Florida baseball in July and August. Like that sounds pretty terrible. So there's that factor. But John, also, is there a component maybe mentally for this team where it's like, all right, I mean, granted, the A's are playing in a minor league stadium, but they knew that was the case. A couple months ago, the Rays did not know that they're going to be playing in a minor league stadium. So does that affect them in any way?
I think mentally it will, in all honesty. I think in a way it's a catch-22 because I think playing in a spring training facility, um, the fans are a little bit it's a little bit more intimate. There's less seats, but granted, there's not many Rays fans to begin with,
Hmm.
in general at home games. Interestingly enough, though, their team batting average at home was 230 and on the road was 231. Uh, to me, that says that it doesn't matter whether it's home or away, that the offense still wasn't producing. What the biggest thing is, honestly, and Will is 100% correct with this, they gave up more earned runs away than they did at home. Their ERA away last year was 394, whereas at home it was 363. So that will definitely be affected, especially in the humidity of Florida, and especially, something that a lot of people don't consider with Florida is how quick storms can pop up and how it can drastically shift the weather, because it can be, cloudy and a little bit humid to oh, a thunderstorm broke out and now it's rainy for an hour. Okay, you just went into a delay. Oh God, now it's sunny and humid as hell. So let's hit the figure it out button on how we're going to keep these balls in this ballpark.
Yeah, Florida's a crazy place. I've, my grandparents used to live there, and there was times where it would be pouring on one side of the street, and on the other side of the street, it'd be dry as hell.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing. Um,
Anyone that has been to Disney knows you always bring a poncho no matter what you do.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think so. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because obviously a natural disaster causes this, and it's very unfortunate. But like for so long, everybody had talked about how outdated the Trop is, and oh, they need a new home. And then there was all this, oh, are they getting a new stadium? Well, that's fallen through, and I don't know. I mean, I just feel like not even from a team standpoint, but as like a fan, you got to be at least a little disappointed that like the sell didn't go through. Again, I mean, they're rebuilding the stadium, which is good, I guess. Like you'll be able to go back there, but that's been a stadium for a long time that's been talked about as like one of the worst stadiums. So I don't know. This might be this might be an upgrade
That
for the Rays.
that is officially the worst stadium in MLB now that Oakland is no longer
A
a
thing.
part of
Well, neither of them
the
are a thing.
lexicon.
Both of them
Yeah.
stopped at the same time.
That's true.
Yeah,
That
but
is true.
Tropicana's coming back. That's at least for right now, anyway.
Yeah.
Really
I don't
hard
know,
to
I-
say
Just
when
assuming it'll
something
come
is
back
the
as
worst, the worst ballpark in baseball when it has a freaking hole in the roof. But that's just me.
That makes it even more so that it's easier to say that.
At least we won't have
we have like an ongoing like increase in retractable roof style stadiums. This is a completely different approach. They just took some dynamite and just blew a big hole.
They just
blowing
ripped
that
it off.
sweet summer humid air that we got down there in Florida.
yeah.
You know, I've heard of fans blowing the roof off the building, but this is ridiculous.
At least we
They
won't
never
have
had
any
enough fans in that building.
they
for
won't
that
have
thing
any
to be-
balls set up in the catwalks this year, which is nice because that's always annoying when that happens.
Oof.
But all right, let's talk about the pitching. As Shane McClanahan does come back, and will obviously that's going to be huge for them. He's one of the best aces in the league. You did mention that maybe their pitching will take a slight step back with their stadium situation, but overall, what does getting McClanahan back do for the Rays?
Oh, it solidifies their rotation. I mean, he's a Cy Young caliber pitcher. He finished sixth in the Cy Young voting in 2022, and he made the All-Star team in 22 and 23. So, I mean, the Rays were banking basically as Zach Eflin as their ace last year. They traded him when things weren't doing that great. McClanahan is a huge step up from that. And I trust the Rays as a team anyway, or I should say, I trust Cash as a manager to use the pieces he has pitching wise to the best of their abilities. And McClanahan is someone that in a staff that is going to be a lot of guys pitch maybe 3 innings, 4 innings. You get an opener, then you get 5 innings from a guy. McClanahan's someone that can potentially give you 6, 7 innings of solid work. And that can be a perfect thing to have with a staff where you need to probably give him rest when you can here and there.
Yeah, and I think the Rays have always had they always seem to have good starting pitching. They've had a lot of guys come out of there that are now, stars in other, locations now, obviously Blake Snell being like the one you think of. But they had Glass now as well, of course, and the trade that I'll never forget. But you kind of look at their rotation, and again, even last year, like Pepio had a 3.6 ERA. I don't know if it's Littell or Lytle, I'm not sure, but he had a 3.63. So guys that aren't typically household
I
names
thought it
are
was just
still.
little.
I don't know. Guys that aren't really household names. I mean, those guys both pitch 130 and 156 innings respectively, and they put up those numbers. So it always seems like they're really good in the rotation. And then adding McClanahan back. I mean, John, is this like kind of a low key, like really good starting rotation?
Yeah, I think you could argue it's one of the best, if not the best, in the American League East. I mean, in all honesty, you're looking at a guy coming back who, as Will said, is a Cy Young caliber pitcher, has been an all-star each year that he, has pitched. Was rookie of the year, was seventh in rookie of the year, excuse me, in his rookie season in 2021. You know, this is arguably the best thing that could happen to them, especially with having to essentially play 162 road games, if you want to be technical here, and really not playing on the road. This is really a shot in the arm that they need to really, bounce back this season.
I'm curious where Steinbrenner. Does anybody know where Steinbrenner Field is located? Like, is it
It's
actually
in Tampa.
Oh, it is
It's
in
in
Tampa.
Tampa.
Okay.
I've been there a couple times at spring training.
Yeah. I thought it was like around the area, but then I was like, is it in St. Petersburg? But regardless, I mean,
Truth be told, that might actually bring them more fans.
It's like
because
just down the. I mean, it is just down the street from where the Buccaneers play. I think.
Well,
okay.
the reason I say that is because St. Petersburg, from what I've heard, is a pain in the ass to get in and out of.
Well,
It was fun when I was there.
I will say to your point, I mean, you made a good point because it's the same thing we said about the A's, which is they're essentially downsizing their stadium, which actually might help their atmosphere just because the stadium is smaller and it's more intimate and fans can kind of be more involved and you don't have a fan sitting here and then somebody sitting all the way at the top, of the stadium and it's like much
well,
closer.
no, they
So.
they never had the top of the stadium open the
Well,
past couple years.
yeah, but like you know what I'm saying. Like everything's so much closer. The noise is more together. So in a way, it actually could help them. But
Well, I
We
think
talked about this with the
also,
A's too, where like it's
Yeah.
going to be a much more noisy atmosphere compared to what they're used to.
well, what's ironic is both the stadiums, both in Oakland and Tampa Bay, had the largest foul ground from the playing field to the stands that was in baseball or in MLB. They had the largest foul territory,
Yeah.
so that is something that does go away as well.
Also, I'm trying to. I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day, but I was trying to think of like what teams still have the bullpens on the field.
They're the
And
last one.
they are the last one. Okay, because it's like, all right, Oakland, I remember, but they're gone now, and then the Rays, and I couldn't think of anybody else. But
The Giants used to for a while.
yeah, but they
Yeah,
took.
the Giants used to.
And I mean, like Oakland Stadium, their foul territory is going to be absolutely shrunk massively. I don't know what the situation is with the Rays, but of course, I mean, most of it is just being, again, playing outside in that humid, soppy, horrible, gross heat in the summer it's gonna suck. But
Cowbells are going to suck in that stadium.
but kind of looking at them overall, Pacoda projects them at 82 wins as of March 18th. And with the AL East kind of being in limbo, Will, do you see them as a dark horse to maybe, again, compete for that top spot?
I think they're absolutely a dark horse to take the division. There have been, like we said, to the injuries to the Yankees, the Orioles rotation still isn't complete. And then you have the Red Sox that have not yet proven they are a playoff team, even though they've definitely made a lot of additions this offseason, though there are still questions about the bullpen. Long as the Rays don't have one of their worst offenses in team history, I think they're absolutely up there for taking the division.
Yeah, and I'm gonna again talk about Pacoda being a little bit strange because they have them at 82 wins, which is fourth best. Now Baltimore they have winning it right now at 88, but even Toronto was above them, which I would definitely take the Jays over Toronto. I think at this point in time,
The Jays over Toronto, that's a lovely
the Jays over the Rays. Excuse me.
Oh, wait, you still said it wrong. You had the Jays over the Rays.
Well, they have Toronto
But
over
do
Tampa.
you want the Jays over the Rays?
No.
Yeah, what do you want, Tyler?
I would take the Rays over the Jays, in my opinion.
That's not confusing.
We got there.
But yeah.
By the way, speaking of Pacoda, they have updated, and the Yankees are above Toronto.
Yeah, but
by
even
by
still,
one win.
Well, that's probably because of the Scherzer situation with Toronto. So we'll
even
get there later.
I don't know. Even Toronto being at 80, almost 85 wins, kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know why. I mean, it's possible. It's just I would take Boston and Tampa over Toronto at this point. But regardless, John, how do you, being a fan of this division, how do you kind of see Tampa slotting in? Are they a contender for this, or are they kind of going to be where they were at last year?
Well, that's an interesting way to put that. a fan of this division.
I was gonna say, is he not a fan of the division because they're hard on his team?
True.
Again. Anyway, in all seriousness, though, I think that Tampa Bay definitely their rotation is one of the best. Their offense has a lot to be desired, and I do wonder how much, essentially, like I said earlier, playing 162 road games will affect them. So I don't have them making the playoffs, but honestly, they need to bounce back, I think, to really, prove that this business model isn't like a failure, at least in my mindset. So, yeah, I'm gonna have Tampa Bay not making the playoffs, but I think roughly 82 wins. I almost want to agree with Pacoda on this one.
I think you know, again, looking overall, like you said, there is a lot to be desired on that offense, but if they can put that together or even somewhat of a show of what it could be, I think they have a legitimate chance just with the uncertainty right now in New York and Baltimore to some extent. It is definitely going to be a talking point as we go throughout the season, but hey, I'm putting the house on Tampa finishing over 500 this year. That's all I'm saying. They are the model of consistency. But with
I
that,
think we all said over 500.
yeah,
Just
no,
all said it in various different
yeah, we
ways.
said it in various confusing ways. Yes, you're right. But with that,
Go
that
Jays.
wraps up day 27 of Around the League in 30 days. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns, big league breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel as we wind down to our last 3 days. Day 28, we're headed to Texas to talk about the Rangers. So make sure to look out for that. And again, coming down to the last few days. And as you guys are seeing it, just a couple days away from the MLB opening day as well. So fun times ahead. But until next time, see you later. And go Jays. Or Rays.
Wear your seatbelt, because in the next episode we're messing with Texas.
This is going on too long. Come on.